My boyfriend woke me up at 2 a.m. and demanded that I make him dinner to test my loyalty. Instead, I decided it was time for him to leave. We'd been official for a few months, and everything seemed perfect. He was sweet, kind, funny, and absolutely gorgeous. We did all the typical couple things, staying at each other's places, going on date nights, and just enjoying each other's company. There were no red flags, just a few beige ones that everyone has. Then came the night that changed everything. He'd been under a lot of stress at work lately. Multiple people had quit, leaving him to pick up the slack. We decided to spend the weekend at my place so he could work remotely without the noise of his roommates. Friday went smoothly. He worked while I tried to keep things calm and supportive. On Saturday, things took a turn. Something went wrong at his job, and the stress doubled. He wasn't eating anything I made, but that was fine. I just reminded him there were leftovers in the fridge. By 11 p.m., he was still working, so I went to bed. At 2 a.m., I was jolted awake by him shaking me, demanding I make him something to eat. Confused, I reminded him about the leftovers and tried to go back to sleep, but he wasn't having it. He insisted that I make him something fresh, mumbling about coconut shrimp, or something equally ridiculous at that hour. Half asleep, I just stared at him, trying to figure out what was going on. He didn't like my silence. He started berating me for not doing my duty as his girlfriend. That woke me up completely. I told him to get out of my house. His attitude shifted immediately. He started apologizing, but I just repeated myself and told him to leave. He looked stunned, like he couldn't believe what was happening. I picked up his stuff, put it into a bag, and handed it to him, making it clear I was serious. When I tossed his car keys at him, he finally realized I wasn't joking, and he left. That was Sunday morning. It's now Monday night, and I still haven't spoken to him. He's been calling and texting, but I'm just too annoyed and dumbfounded to respond. I know I'll have to talk to him eventually, but right now, I'm just over it. He's an idiot. He came to my job to explain himself. Apparently, his friends had seen a video of a woman being woken up to cook for her man, and they all decided to test it out on their partners as some sort of loyalty test. My initial judgment was right. He's an idiot. He was surprised when I broke up with him, but he took it calmly, though I could see he was sad. By the way, that's over with, and I'm moving on. After I broke up with him, I felt a mix of emotions, relief, anger, and a strange sense of loss. I'd invested time and energy into the relationship, believing he was someone I could trust. But now, it was clear he was easily influenced by his friends and lacked the maturity I needed in a partner. The following days were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the nagging thoughts of what if? What if I had handled the situation differently? What if I had given him another chance? But deep down, I knew I made the right decision. One evening, while I was scrolling through social media, I noticed that he had unfollowed me and removed all our photos together. It stung a little, but it was a reminder that we were really over. I started to wonder what he was telling people about our breakup. Was he painting me as a villain? Was he regretting his actions? I wanted to know, but at the same time, I was determined not to get sucked back into the drama. A week later, I ran into one of his friends at a coffee shop. I was trying to keep things casual, but curiosity got the better of me. I asked him how my ex was doing. His friend hesitated for a moment before telling me that my ex was struggling. He hadn't realized how much he had hurt me and was now grappling with the consequences of his actions. According to his friend, he was still trying to figure out how he had gone from being in a happy relationship to being single in just a few days. That conversation left me with a lot to think about. I wondered if I had been too harsh, too quick to end things. But then I remembered the way he had treated me, the entitlement he had shown by demanding I cook for him in the middle of the night as a test. It wasn't just about that one incident. It was about the underlying lack of respect and consideration. I decided to focus on myself for a while. I started taking up new hobbies, yoga, painting, even a cooking class. It was therapeutic, allowing me to rediscover parts of myself that had been overshadowed by the relationship. Slowly but surely, I began to feel more like myself again. Then, one night, I received a message from him. It was long, filled with apologies and regrets. He admitted that he had been wrong, that he had let his friends influence him, and that he missed me terribly. He asked if we could meet up to talk things over. For a moment, I considered it. I remembered the good times we had shared, the laughter, the connection. But then I remembered the feeling of betrayal, of being tested in such a ridiculous way, and how he had disrespected me. I realized that, while I might forgive him, I could never forget what had happened. So I replied, thanking him for his apology, but making it clear that I had moved on and that it was best for both of us to continue down separate paths. It wasn't an easy message to send, but it felt like the closure I needed. From that point on, I felt a sense of freedom. I had learned a lot from the relationship, about myself, about what I want in a partner, and about the importance of respect and communication. I knew I wouldn't settle for anything less in the future. As the weeks turned into months, I started to feel genuinely happy again. I spent more time with friends and family, deepened my hobbies, and even started dating casually, though I was careful to take things slowly. One day, while I was at the park reading, I ran into a guy who was walking his dog. We struck up a conversation, and to my surprise, we hit it off immediately. He was kind, funny, and most importantly, he respected me from the start. We exchanged numbers and started seeing each other, taking things one day at a time. This new relationship was different. There were no games, no tests, just two people getting to know each other with honesty and care. It felt refreshing, like a breath of fresh air after the storm I had weathered with my ex. Looking back, I realized that ending things with my ex was one of the best decisions I had ever made. It opened the door to something better, something more real. I had learned to trust myself, to stand up for what I deserve, and to never settle for anything less than mutual respect and love. And in the end, that made all the difference. As my new relationship began to blossom, I found myself reflecting on how much had changed in such a short amount of time. The pain of the past was fading, replaced by a renewed sense of optimism and excitement for the future. My new partner, Alex, was everything I hadn't realized I needed: patient, understanding, and genuinely invested in getting to know me for who I was. Our dates were simple but meaningful. We'd go for long walks, talk about our favorite books, and share our dreams for the future. There was no pressure, no need to impress each other with grand gestures or elaborate plans. It was just easy, natural, and exactly what I needed to heal and grow. One weekend, Alex suggested a day trip to a nearby town known for its charming cafes and art galleries. As we strolled through the cobblestone streets, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. We spent hours exploring, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. When we finally sat down at a cozy little cafe for lunch, I realized that I hadn't thought about my ex in days. It was as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I could finally breathe freely again. As our relationship deepened, Alex and I started to share more about our pasts. I told him about my previous relationship, the late-night loyalty test, and how it had all ended. He listened without judgment, offering comfort and understanding instead of pity. He shared his own stories of heartbreak and lessons learned, and together, we realized how much we had both grown from our past experiences. One evening, as we were sitting on my couch watching a movie, Alex turned to me and asked, "Do you ever regret breaking up with him?" It was a question that had lingered in the back of my mind, even as I moved on. But as I looked at Alex, at the life we were building together, I knew the answer. "No," I replied, shaking my head. It was hard at first, but I've realized that it was the right thing to do. I deserve someone who respects me, who doesn't need to test my loyalty to know how much I care. Alex smiled and took my hand. I'm glad you see that. You deserve the best, and I'm lucky to be with you. As time went on, we continued to grow closer. We talked about our future together, traveling, moving in together, even starting a family someday. It was all so different from my previous relationship, where I often felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid of what new test or challenge might come my way. With Alex, everything felt secure and grounded. We communicated openly, and I never doubted his commitment to me. About a year into our relationship, Alex invited me to a family gathering. It was the first time I would meet his parents and siblings, and I was nervous but excited. When we arrived, I was immediately welcomed with open arms. His family was warm, down to earth, and treated me like one of their own. I realized that this was what I had been missing, a sense of belonging, of being with someone who truly valued me for who I was. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Alex and I sat outside on the porch, wrapped in blankets, as we watched the stars. He turned to me, a serious look in his eyes, and said, I want you to know that I'm all in. I don't need to test your loyalty or question your love for me. I trust you completely, and I want to build a life with you. His words touched me deeply. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen and understood. I realized that this was the kind of relationship I had always dreamed of, one built on trust, respect, and mutual love. As our relationship continued to flourish, we faced the usual ups and downs that any couple experiences. But unlike my past relationship, where every disagreement felt like a test or a threat, with Alex, I knew we could work through anything together. We supported each other, celebrated each other's successes, and were there for each other during the tough times. Eventually, we decided to move in together. It was a big step, but one that felt right. We found a cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood, and together, we turned it into a home. We spent weekends decorating, cooking meals together, and hosting friends for dinner parties. Our life together was simple, but it was filled with love and joy. One day, as we were unpacking the last of our boxes, I came across a photo album from my previous relationship. I hadn't looked at it in months, and as I flipped through the pages, I felt a wave of nostalgia. But instead of sadness, I felt a sense of closure. That chapter of my life was over, and I had moved on to something better, something real. I showed the album to Alex, and he smiled as he looked at the photos. You've come a long way, he said, wrapping his arm around me. And I'm so glad I get to be a part of this new chapter with you. As I leaned into him, I realized that everything I had gone through, the heartache, the betrayal, the doubts, had led me to this moment. I had learned to value myself, to demand respect, and to never settle for less than I deserved. And in the process, I had found a love that was true and lasting. In the months that followed, our life together continued to grow and evolve. We took trips, made new memories, and faced challenges with the confidence that we could overcome anything as long as we were together. And through it all, I knew that I had finally found the kind of love that I had always dreamed of, a love that was based on trust, mutual respect, and a deep, unshakable connection. Looking back, I realized that breaking up with my ex was the best decision I had ever made. It had led me to Alex, to a relationship that was healthy and fulfilling, and to a future that was full of possibilities. I had learned that sometimes letting go of something that isn't right is the first step toward finding something that truly is. And for that, I was grateful every single day.